Gold is good. In fact, here in King Arthur Legends Rise, gold is the single most important resource in the entire game. So in today's video, we're going to dive into the Burning Land dungeon, and I'm going to show you how I defeat Gorgos and farm all that sweet, sweet gold. I am CallRed. This is CallRed Plays. Let's get started. Thank you to my sponsor for today's video, King Arthur Legends Rise. If you are interested in checking out the game, you can download King Arthur using my download link in the description of this video. When you use my link, it definitely helps me out, so I appreciate all the support. And in the comments below, let me know how you are enjoying the game. I love to hear all of those stories. So once again, thank you. Now let's get back to the video. As a quick reference point, my account is currently 47 days old, and it is fully free to play. So hopefully the solutions we talk about today will be accessible to you either immediately or in the near future. Now, for the first 20 or 25 days of my account, I didn't have much trouble here in the Burning Land. I pushed up to Burning Land 6 relatively easily, and I farmed here for a little while. But when I took the same team and tried to push into Burning Land 7, it got absolutely destroyed. And so this may be an experience you're having. I want to show you why this is happening. As you can see, at stage 6, there is only one arm, the left arm. And then in stage 7, the boss gets a second arm. So not only is the boss increasing in terms of stats, damage, output, survivability, speed, but this right arm multiplies the effect of the left arm, basically doubling it and making the boss much more dangerous. So if you don't know how this fight works, basically the boss is going to put a bunch of dots on you through various skills, and then also his arms skills. And then the big skill that's really important is this Breath of Crimson Flame, because this triggers a dot explosion, which will fire off all of the dots on your team simultaneously. And that may one-shot your team, or at least knock it down so far to a low health level that you'll never recover. By the time the second Breath of Crimson Flame comes around, if you haven't died already, you've got no shot and you're dead. Now, the team that I was originally bringing in was sort of my starter dungeon team. It was the same team I was bringing into every dungeon. It was Morgan, Arthur, Tristan, and whatever support I was running at the time, probably Turin. I didn't have any dot removals, and basically I brought in 3 damage dealers, and I just got absolutely crushed. So at some point, I decided, you know what, maybe I'll try a second support. So I added a dot removal champion to try to handle these dots, and I still got crushed. And after 3 or 4 more days of frustration, I finally decided to lean fully into the dot removal, and I added a third support champion. So I had 2 dot removal champions and a healer, and then 1 damage dealing champion. And surprisingly to me, not only did I crush Burning Land 7, but I worked my way all the way up to Burning Land 10 in like 15 minutes. So I just had to get over that hump of figuring out the fight and investing in a couple of champions. And I solved this dungeon very, very quickly, and hopefully I can provide you with some guidance on how to do the same. So what we want to do here is basically want to bring in 3 supports. 2 of the supports should be focused on dot removal. 1 of the supports should be focused on healing. And then you need 1 damage champion. Now, if you come here to the little information icon with the archway, it'll give you a rundown of good heroes for this dungeon. So you've got heroes that inflict dots, heroes that remove dots, and in fact, they even have Gorgos Slayers. These are probably the 4 best heroes in the game to bring into this dungeon. If you don't have them, that's fine. You should relatively quickly get access to Anguish. In fact, I think he's a free champion, maybe on like day 14 or 15. Like, you get him just by playing the game, so you should have him if you're trying to push past, say, stage 7 up to stage 10. And you just need to invest in him a little bit. As far as the removed dots are concerned, the best one in the game is definitely Vivian. It's not even close. But you have 2 really good cheap options. The first is Jarrett. He's an uncommon. You're going to be able to invest in this guy relatively cheaply and bring him up to a high degree of effectiveness without a lot of resources being used. So you can see mine's already up to Chivalry level 10, and this is without any, 8 out of 10, and this is without any real effort at all. You can level up his skills, you can level up his relics, you might get all 3 of his relics. So Jarrett is really good for this fight. I don't really use him anywhere else, but he's excellent for this fight. And for this fight alone, he's worth it. Remember, I said at the beginning, gold is so important in this game that I think solving this dungeon is probably the most important dungeon to solve in the whole game. Like, you need to solve this dungeon to get your gold. Now, Isolde is a decent healer. I don't think she's one of the better healers, but she's not bad. And for this dungeon, she's extremely good for two reasons. One, first of all, she focuses on dot removal. And then secondly, she actually pairs really well with Anguish. Anguish is her father, and they have an ally connection. So you're going to get some more value out of Anguish and Isolde when you put them together. And again, he can be your solution for dealing damage. But in addition, he also gives you a really nice leader skill. So if you look here, you get the leader effect list. His activates in the Burning Land and in Arena, and it grants all allies an attack speed of 20%. So this is just as good as Lancelot's leader effect in the Burning Land. Lancelot's effect is actually good in all locations, but it's the same percentage. So in the Burning Land, you know, Anguish is basically as good as Lancelot here, and you can see, you know, he talks to Isolde because they are a duo. So I've got Isolde removing dots, I've got Jarrett removing dots, and then I've got Turin healing, and Anguish is going to provide all the damage. And you really don't need a lot of damage here. It's not hard to kill this boss. It's just difficult to survive him, and that's what all of these supports are doing. Now, as far as the relics are concerned, the boss is flame affinity, so you want as many frost relics as you can bring. Jarrett is really good with his frost relic. That's fine because his skills are all the same on all his relics. For Isolde, I actually prefer her flame relic. That is a neutral affinity, so that's fine. You just don't want to bring in her storm relic. But this is going to remove dots on the A3 and give you a recovery alt over time plus a heal. So this bolsters the healing of the overall team. For Turin, I actually stick with the weak affinity relic because it's much stronger than the frost relic that I have as an option, primarily because of this A2, which gives you a defense increase. Plus, if the weather is night, you get recovery over time, and you can turn the weather to night using Turin, so shouldn't be a problem. And then finally, we have Anguish, and he has chills. This is a dot on his A3. This is really good. His A2 has a chance of stealing buffs, but you can't really steal this boss's buffs, so you could actually turn this off. And then the A1 also has a chance of landing a dot, which is a chill here. But again, if you have a flame relic, you could certainly use the flame relic instead. So this is going to be the first team we're going to use. It should do this job relatively well. Again, if you look at the builds, you know, these heroes are built, but only Turin is heavily invested in. The others are basically at varying degrees of progression, and they were able to do the job here at stage 7 before they got to level 50, or maybe at level 50. So I didn't have to get them to 6 stars. I didn't really have to level up their relics too far. So it was a medium amount of investment here in these 3 champions, I would say. We're just going to start the battle. A couple of things you want to note about the control of this battle. So I'm going to turn off the auto battle. You do want to prioritize certain skills. So for these heroes, Jarrett's dot removal is his A2, so you want to turn off the A3. You don't care about the A3. Just prioritize the A2 and then the A1. For Isolde, the dot removal is her A3, so you want to go ahead and prioritize that and then the A1. And again, if you want to do more damage, you could just turn on her A2 as well. You could just turn on, kind of do this, you know, you just turn everything off. But I don't need it. You won't need it, probably. So we're just going to do this instead. For Turin, I let her use all of her abilities. You could just prioritize her A2 if you want, if you can get away with that, and you're worried about your vigor. But her A3 is a very strong heal, so if you do get behind, you can use that. So I just leave this alone. And then finally, Anguish, you want to prioritize the A3, which is his major damage-dealing skill, his dot, and then just go with the A1. You don't really need the A2 at all here. And so now we're just going to go ahead and fire this off. You do want to focus the boss. Don't worry about the limbs. Don't let it auto, right? Make sure that you're focusing the boss. You want to get all of these chills onto the boss. That will not only deal damage to the boss, it will slow him down, because chill has the effect of slowing down its targets as well. In fact, you can look here. You can see chill gives you -3%, but it also lowers attack speed by 5%, which is really nice. So we're just going to let this play out. And it shouldn't be much more than maybe a minute to clear this. And what you're going to see is we're very healthy. Turn is giving us that increased defense plus that recovery over time. And then when the dots come up, either Jarrett or Isolde will quickly remove them, and we're back in business. We don't have to worry about the boss's big skill when he uses that burn explosion, that dot explosion we don't have to worry about. So it's a little bit slower than normal, but it's not too bad. And this should hopefully maybe, I would say, I typically run this in about 1:10, but sometimes it's a little bit slower. It's never more than 2 minutes, I don't think. I don't think it even gets to 2 minutes too often, but we will see this one through. And again, you can see all the dots on the boss. He does have dot removal, but often the dots will fire anyway, so it's still good to bring in dots. Don't worry about his dot removal. And you just go ahead and keep your team healthy, and one damage dealer gets the job done. It's highly reliable. I have never actually failed with this team composition, so that's really nice. And as you can see, those dots do a chunk of damage at a time, so every time the boss goes, he basically is hurting himself with those dots. And again, we clear our own dots, give a nice little boost to our heal, and the boss should probably die on his next turn. You can see how healthy we are. Like, granted, I've built these heroes a little bit further than they were when I first found this solution, but hopefully if you have all of these heroes to level 50, that would be enough, or even like level 45 might be enough with a little bit of an investment into their appropriate relics. I do think I have Anguish in a Vigor set, so I get a little bit of extra Vigor here. Maybe Jarrett as well, and that can help if you're having trouble. Okay, so that is it for stage 7. And then as I moved on and up, eventually I got to a better team. So I was able to replace Anguish with Lancelot. It's the same aura, but as you can see, I've heavily invested in my Lancelot. He's a lot stronger. I don't have the Frost Affinity Relic, but that's fine. Neutral Affinity is still going to crush. And then I replaced Isolde here with Vivian, who I believe is the best hero in the entire game for this. If you look at her relic, we have, what is it? Her A2. So not only will it remove dots, so it has an independent chance to convert each ally's dot to recovery over time. So she actually turns the dots into healing, which is kind of crazy. And then in addition, on her A3, she has a chance to land a burn. And then on her A1, she has a chance to land a burn. So she can add to the damage output pretty considerably. I could leave Jarrett in here, or what I could do is actually brig in Merlin, which I'm going to do because I really like Merlin, and I'm always looking for ways to use him. And on his Frost Relic, you'll notice that he has this ability, Frozen Remains. Now, if you click on Frozen Remains, this grants dot immunity to the attacker for 2 turns. So what that means is that this debuff will apply to the boss, and then when your other heroes hit the boss, they get dot immunity for 2 turns. So you've got Vivian, who is removing dots, and you've got Merlin, who's making your team dot immune, and then you've got Turn, again, same healer, who's just healing us, and then Lancelot's going to do all the dirty work in terms of the damage. I'm just going to go ahead and multiply that up to 3. And this should be a little bit faster, even though it's at stage 10 as opposed to stage 7. And again, you want to click on that boss, make sure that the boss is the one getting all of the skills. The nice thing here about Lancelot is that his burns on this relic are AoE, so he will also burn the arms. At some stages, I actually killed the arms before the boss, but usually the boss takes more of the damage, and you kill the boss sooner. So again, you can see we're getting hit pretty hard, but with all of the recovery over time that we have, we basically get filled almost all the way back up every single time we take a turn. So attack speed does matter. You want to get a lot of turns. You want to go faster than the boss if you can. But with 3 supports here, you're going to do really well. If you're struggling with Merlin, I like Merlin because I think he adds a little bit of DPS and dot immunity, and it's all fun there. But you could just come back with Isolde. You could put her back in that spot and be totally fine. That would give you dot removal and more healing, whereas you're not getting quite as much healing from Merlin. I should show you the skill order here. In fact, I may not even have it turned on the right way. No, this is fine. So basically, Merlin should be using his A2 so you can get that dot immunity out there as often as possible. And then If you want more damage, you can turn on his A3. It's an AoE hit that hits decently hard, but you don't need it. And it could potentially make your team squishier, right? Because you're not getting that dot immunity as much. Again, Turn has all of her skills open. We don't care about Vivian's A3 dot, so she will place dots on her A1. And then again, Lancelot, his AoE burn is his A3. We turn off his A2 and just let him also apply burns with his A1. More dots with his A1. More dots. We love more dots. So this is a little bit scarier because the stat requirement is higher, and you can notice I'm getting hit decently hard. I have had runs where individual supports will die. Sometimes even everybody but Lancelot dies, but at that point, Gorgos is so low that it doesn't matter, and we just burn through him anyway. Lancelot is fairly tanky on his own, and if he has an increased defense or a recovery over time for a few turns at the end there, it's not really a problem. You can see Turn did end up dropping. Remember, she was the weak affinity, but the rest of the team lived, and we knocked down Gorgos. Now, I've never actually lost this team, but remember that in King Arthur Legends Rise, it doesn't really matter if you lose a fight some of the time, because you don't consume your energy until the fight is won. Even if you lose, you could just go back and use the same stamina, fight it again, and beat the boss. So if you have a team that can win 75% of the time, that's going to be more than enough to quickly and easily farm Burning Land, Stage 10, or any of the dungeons at all. Okay, so that is it. Those are my solutions here for the most important dungeon, the gold dungeon, here in King Arthur Legends Rise. Let me know in the comments below, first of all, what's your solution if you have one? And if you don't have a solution, try this one out and let me know how it works for you. Okay, that is it for today's video. Thanks once again to my sponsor, King Arthur Legends Rise. And don't forget, if you want to download the game, you can find my download link in the description of this video. Thanks for hanging out today. I have been Colred, and I will see you in another video soon.